Okay, we're back with Bertie again, and going through the process of opening the gate, getting some focus, giving a treat. So we're doing this on camera right from scratch. He hasn't been out since yesterday, so we're going to be going into a high energy situation here where he's going to be very bouncy and excited for his first time out. It's always important to control the initial interaction with the dog and make sure that we're calm in that interaction. There's always an impulse on behalf of people to mirror the dog's energy. So if the dog is producing high energy, for us to go into a high energy situation with the dog. So it's always important that we don't mirror that energy. By mirroring that energy would mean that we raise our voice, that we make a lot of sudden jerky moves, that we interact with the dog in a high energy manner. It's important that we interact with the dog in a calm manner and that we don't mirror the dog's energy. People and dogs for that matter are prone to mirroring. So mirroring the energy of the creatures around them or the area around them. So it's important that Ari stays calm and doesn't mirror the dog's high energy in this situation, or his initial burst of energy as he comes out. Normally when training a dog, you will get in the initial stages of the interaction with the dog, what you will get is a high burst of energy. So the tail, the body language, everything, you can see him, everything's fast, it's hard, it's high. And if we mirror that energy, it'll sustain it. If we don't mirror that energy, it'll start to calm down and start to go away a little bit. So the propensity to mirror that energy, we have to deal with that in this situation. Now, normally halfway through a training session, what you will get is the dog focusing more once that initial burst of energy is gone, and listening a little bit more and focusing a little bit more. So that would be the norm during a training session. Not saying every dog is the same, every training session is the same, but normally that would be the case, that the dog will start to listen more after maybe the 5-10 minutes of the training session. Then near the end of the training session, because the dog won't pace himself very well and he's already after coming out like a sprinter out of the blocks, the dog will become mentally exhausted. Maybe if you drag on a training session for maybe up to an hour, the dog will start to become exhausted after an hour or so. So that would be the normal it would be the normal sequence of a training session. Now with a dog like Bertie, he is an extremely high energy dog. So I'm not sure even after an hour if he's going to start to calm. No, he's a very high energy dog, and these dogs, because they're bred as working dogs, they have a natural propensity to be a high energy dog. Such as your average show dog, and that probably wouldn't have that level of energy, but then again wouldn't be able to work to the same level as the likes of Bertie. You might get 10 minutes, 15 minutes out of your average show dog. These guys will go for hours. Literally will go for hours. And the same thing, Ari here, controlling the area around the gate, even though she doesn't have to stand in front of him at the moment. But what she's doing is she's controlling the area around the gate. She's owning that area around the gate, making sure there's no traffic coming before we go. So safety all the way. You can see the double click lead, proper clothing. Everything All safety is being taken care of. She's taking her time, so the dog, she won't move forward until the dog obeys and gets the heel position and goes into the heel position. You can see right away there, a little bit of massage on the top of the head.
He's a bit, even compared to yesterday, he's a lot more excited to be out.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes back to that training is linear. We could have had a great session today. Not quite up to the same standard, but that's also cool. Like
that's important to note that every day you won't make progress. That's an important thing to know. If you go out someday and you don't make progress, there's no point in becoming despondent and upset over it. The thing to do is really to go out the next day and try and make progress.
I think as well, make what you have positive.
Yeah, keep it positive.
You know,
yep.
He's working a lot better up here than he is right at the gate.
Yep.
So I'm going to keep working up here today, and that's fine.
We'll work where we have control over the dog rather than putting the dog in a position where he's out of control. What we'll do is we'll build on our success rather than push ourselves too far forward. That's a real novice mistake that people make. They push the dog too far, too fast. And what happens when you push the dog too far, too fast, you start getting failures and keep failing, and you push the dog to failure constantly. And when you're pushing the dog to failure constantly, the dog is regressing rather than moving forward. So you're almost fighting against yourself by pushing the dog to failure constantly. We keep the dog in a little bubble where he's succeeding, and we reward that success rather constantly pushing the dog into a failure situation and constantly pushing him to failure. At that point, we're going one step forward and two steps back. That's why a lot of people can't get results with dogs like these. That's the difference in the way we handle these dogs and the difference in a novice trainer who hasn't a lot of experience with these dogs. You need to keep yourself in a situation where you're constantly succeeding with the dog.
Another point, if it's all right, I noticed our back turn when we came onto the concrete, approaching the smaller gate. It was a much cleaner back turn, and I only had to attempt it the first time with them today.
Yep.
So while we have been getting into the field and we've been doing great and getting through the main field gate, something I'm really happy about today is that back turn, because it's been something we've been working on. Yep. And, you know, I might get in tomorrow and that back turn might have to be practiced 3 times, but today that's my positive.
Well, when Ari says a back turn, she means a left-hand turn, like with the dog in a heel position. So that's what she's saying, a back turn. Yeah. So that's a back turn, basically, dog in a heel position and bringing the dog into a left-hand turn. Now we have traffic on the road, so Ari's maintaining the dog's attention.
I keep doing a bit on the road.
Yep, so Ari's going to stay on the road where she's having good success rather than pushing the dog into the training grounds where she feels that we would be pushing to failure. It's important, even if your dog just has a basic sit, that what we do with the dog is that we build on that. We get basic attention, we build on it. We get a sit, we build on it. We get a sit down, we build on it. Rather than trying to push the dog into a position where the dog is constantly failing, not being rewarded. And if we're constantly doing that, we're fighting against ourselves. We're not making progress. You can see lovely heel position. Dog is walking beside her. Ari's carrying the lead in her hand, and the dog is not pulling on that lead. He's not pulling forward. He's not sniffing the ground. He's not ignoring. He's constantly watching and engaging with her. And for him, this is difficult. It's difficult for Bertie to focus on her. It takes a lot of mental energy for him to focus on her.
He's 2 Monday, and the last time he had to do any form of communication with a person, he was 12 weeks old.
Yeah, he was trained as a pup at 12 weeks old, but then he didn't get any training really till he came back to us. So really, I mean, I think that training that he got at 12 weeks old stood to him. So we didn't really have to start from scratch with him. But still, he definitely needs a lot of work. A dog like him would not be ideal for somebody who hadn't got a lot of experience with these dogs. You would have to be physically and mentally capable and understand what you're doing. You mess up with a dog like this, it can go very, very bad. It's a very unforgiving situation. Dogs that are bred to be working dogs, especially dogs like him, they're bred for military and police work primarily. So a dog like him can, in the wrong hands, be quite a weapon and quite dangerous. And even in the wrong situations can be dangerous to their own handlers. So for people to take on a dog like this, which is a really high drive working dog, a big, very, very powerful high drive working dog, you have to understand what you're doing. You have to have a level of skill to be able to handle a dog like this. Skill, and there's a level of physical strength also involved in it. But both of them, skill, physical strength and knowledge, are involved in something like this. A lack of ego. Yes.
To be able to understand if things aren't going necessarily correctly, you need to be able to turn around and ask someone for help.
Well, as with all these things, if you want to progress, you have to be humble. If, like, there's so many people, and they will say, and they're in the dog training world, and they will say, well, I know it all. They won't be humble and say what somebody else's take on it. You don't have to take everybody's advice, but it's important to be able to listen to people, and even if you don't take the advice on board, to be able to listen and say, well, has anybody anything else to offer? Is there anything else to say? Rather than saying, no, this is it, and I can't, and I won't take any advice from anybody on it. So it's important to be humble with it if you want to progress in any field, not just dog training.
Two things I'm really, really happy about with his training is when I first used to bring him in, go bike one, he used to dive on his water bowl and drink so much out of a panic, not necessarily because he needed it, but even on that little walk we did there was so many sticks and twigs, and never once, even when I did lose his attention for being too slow or anything like that, not once did he dive on the sticks. Whereas if we go back to the equipment video we first did, I couldn't get him away from the sticks.
We're making slow progress, as I say, and that's what you will make with a dog like this at this age, almost 2-year-old. You will make slow progress. Not to get disheartened, as I say, you'll have good days, you'll have bad days, but you will make slow progress, and that's okay. It's okay to make slow progress. Is that okay, Ari?
That's perfect.
Very good. Nice work.